going to get heavy, by the way.
Of course, yeah, it's the news, so there's always going to be,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But this should make for a good discussion afterwards. So,
Okay, I got
so
lots to
this
say.
one, so Indigenous lawyer injured during Central Alberta arrest alleges RCMP used extreme force. RCMP characterized driver and passenger, both women, as the aggressors. And this article is was posted on June 6th, 2023.
Okay.
And it was updated on June 7th.
What's today? Today. Today's the 7th.
Today's the 7th, yeah.
This is brand spanking new. I got a buddy in Red Deer actually.
And this is CBC News, the
Yeah,
source of this.
you know,
Okay.
in CBC, I've kind of lost love for, but they're still a fucking valid news company. Like they still have people looking at news. It's not like it's totally people, especially my right
I,
wing buddies. They got this idea that the news is so fucking filthy, corrupt, and I don't think it's as bad as people think. I think that's kind of like a conspiracy theory to think that all of these news companies don't have any validity to them at all, and they're just a product of the machine. I don't know about
I,
that.
I do think that CBC, is a good way to get the news, and then you can make up your mind. But there are
Yeah,
some news sources that lean towards,
right.
yeah. So let's just see what it
What
says, and then
is
we can.
what? Okay, so CBC is like a left wing, whatever news, like left leaning news source. What's the right leaning news source in Canada?
Well, it used to be the Sun and the Star. You remember
They
that
were right. They were
newspaper?
more conservative.
The Sun was sorry. So the Star was more conservative, and the Sun was more liberal, I believe.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I think. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
Toronto though. I'm just wondering about like
but still,
nationally.
but
Like
CBC. I mean, it's all over. So I mean, it's
it's
this is a
they're
good.
in some way reputable. This is a legit article.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's just
But
say.
is this opinion? Like the last article that I read, the Guardian, that was not opinion. That was kind of factual. It didn't lead me in any other direction. It just gave me some information that I needed. Do you think this is going to be like in? Well, we'll see. We'll see.
But
Read
that's
it.
the thing. I don't really want their opinion. I want the
I know
facts. Yeah.
and that's why you have to be careful with who you choose the articles from.
Yeah, exactly. So okay,
Okay.
so the picture of the woman lady here, it says Indigenous Red Deer lawyer Laura. I don't know if it's
Vipers.
Fipers or yeah Fipers.
Vipers.
37 suffered injuries during an altercation with RCMP on the weekend. She was charged with assaulting a peace officer, but says police used excessive force. So, a Red Deer lawyer says she and her friend were beaten by an RCMP officer this past weekend after they were pulled over in a central Alberta town. Defense lawyer Laura Fipers, 37, suffered a concussion and broken nose after she was punched at least 7 times in the face and chest by a constable, according to her brother, also a lawyer.
Okay.
However, RCMP say they stand by their initial news release, which characterizes the two women as the aggressors. The women were pulled over Saturday in Innisfail, a town about 100 kilometers north of Calgary. At the time, Desiree Friesen, 24, was driving while Fippers was in the passenger seat. Both women are Indigenous.
Not that it matters. Like right now for this story,
Well,
and I'm curious why they were pulled over. Like what was
so
going
far
on
we
here.
know that they struck one woman
So
seven
far we
times.
know that so far we know that the RCMPs fucked them up. But I'm
Yeah.
wondering why they got pulled over in the first place. Like, were they drunk or were
Okay.
they?
Well, yes. Okay. So two sides. It says here. Friesen faces charges of assaulting a peace officer, resisting arrest, refusing to provide a breath sample, and dangerous driving.
Okay,
Fippers is charged with assaulting a peace officer, obstructing a peace officer, and uttering threats.
that sounds pretty minor.
On Monday, RCMP issued a press release detailing the women's alleged crimes. But Fiper's brother, Andrew Fipers, I think it's Fipers or I think
I
Fipers.
think it's Vipers.
Okay, who is a defense lawyer in Red Deer, responded on his sister's behalf, saying there is no dispute of a roadside confrontation, but there are two sides to what went down. Andrew Fiper said although his sister did not want to engage in the public forum and trusts the facts will ultimately refute the allegation made against her, the RCMP release compels a response. And then it has here closed fist punches.
Jesus. Do you think, before you continue, do you think that there's, like, for sure racist against First Nations people,
Yes,
RCMP people active right now?
100%.
Yeah, so you think that they think that they just beat the fuck out of her because she's First Nations?
Do you think if this was two white women,
It probably wouldn't have made the news.
it would have made the news and it would have been an outrage?
You think so?
I think
If
so.
they,
But
I
again,
don't,
I'm not really supposed to give my opinion here, so
right?
that's
I'm
just
no. I'm just curious. Like, I'm wondering if it was two white women, if it would have got the, like. Is this like front news, like main story on the news page across Canada, CBC?
it's. I mean, I
Like,
think
what? I'm
so.
surprised.
Well,
It
I
should
guess
be.
we.
It
I mean,
should be.
we all get our feed based on what we.
But I think,
You know
but
what I
what
mean?
the point that I'm trying to make, Ren, is that I think this kind of shit happens all the time. We just don't hear about it.
Yes, absolutely,
Like, I think it happens
absolutely.
way more than people want to admit, and that
Um,
then we'll ever know. You know, because
yes,
being a police officer is a pretty threatening position. It's pretty easy to use it the wrong way, to use your force the wrong way.
and do you have to strike a woman 7 times?
No, definitely not. You don't need
Do
to
you know what I
strike anybody.
mean?
That you don't need to strike. You should
No,
know how
but
to take a
I
person
I
down.
don't know about you. We both did some studies in the same field, and we worked as counselors and stuff like that. Did you not do nonviolent crisis intervention?
Oh,
I
all the
did,
time, all the
and
time. Yeah,
and and
every
also
3 years.
they are trained to take someone down if they
Exactly,
have
and
to.
disable them
Right.
properly, like martial arts. Essentially, is what it
So
should be.
this shows that
Cops should be forced to take martial arts.
there is a disregard, right, for the
Yeah,
person, like a disrespect. And there's also this thing where I think that there's not a lot of consequence, I think, to
right.
it. You know what I mean? And that's why I think there's liberties here, and perhaps privilege, you know?
But now, my next question is: does she have previous history with these officers? Is, like, what is she? She's a lawyer, or her brother's a lawyer?
I believe they both are.
Okay, so she's obviously well studied and smart and educated, and probably lives in a nice home. So that doesn't really make her seem like she's an angry, drunk outrager or something. That doesn't add up. She sounds like she's got her shit together. So I don't know why. Maybe they'll get into it. Sorry
But
for
it, but that
interrupting.
but no but that makes me think what you said there. What if she has a past? What
What if
if
she?
she's been
What if she's?
drinking?
Oh, I got something here that I think is it. She's a
Okay.
lawyer. Her brother's a lawyer. They
Uh-huh.
probably became lawyers to to fight First Nations injustice, which I got a big fucking spiel to tell at the end of this thing about. Maybe she's bringing them down. Maybe she's the fucking one. Maybe she's the one bringing these RCMPs to justice. She's
Maybe.
the one doing the work, doing the book work.
It seems like it was a little personal, perhaps, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, obviously, it's got to be personal. That's why I'm wondering the history that she has with him. Like,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what the history is. Is it lawyer, judge, courtroom history? Possibly, right?
Perhaps.
It might,
Yes. That's a good.
likely,
Yeah. Yeah. Likely.
totally likely.
Okay. Well, let me tell you what happened. Let's see. So this is where we are
Okay.
now. We're at closed fist punches.
Yeah.
On Saturday, RCMP said an officer pulled the truck over after it allegedly ran a stop sign near the Innisfail Hospital. The officer demanded a mandatory alcohol screening sample. According to the Viper's statement, Friesen asked for a clean straw to be used on the screening device. It's not a, you know,
That's pretty. That's
that's
especially with all the COVID shit that we just endured.
right. Yeah. Okay. According to the
Bullshit,
Viper's
I should say. But
statement,
anyway.
Friesen asked for a clean straw. Okay, to use on the screen device. The officer immediately escalated to the use of extreme force to rip Ms. Friesen from the vehicle, the Vipers allege. Friesen, who was still wearing her seatbelt, became entangled in her sweater and the seatbelt and causing her to choke.
I think that was maybe a little hyperbolic of what actually happened, but that's their opinion, right? Like, we got to somehow find meet in the middle.
But
Like,
think about it this way,
I
Brendan.
think I think they got really aggressive right away,
But
and then
still, let's
then
just
a
say,
fight ensued.
okay, wait. How aggressive can you be sitting in your car with your seatbelt on?
Well, behind a car, you can be pretty aggressive when you're
Do you
driving
know what
a
I
machine.
mean, though? Do you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, for sure. I'm not saying
If
she's
someone
she's
comes at
threatening.
me to remove me from my car and
I'm just saying. I
basically
know
putting
that
their
you're
hands
not
on
what I'm
me,
saying.
Yeah.
You're missing what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm gonna. Okay.
Like it's not that she's threatening. It just means that like she is in a situation where, oh fuck, I just lost my train of thought. God damn it. Keep reading. Keep reading.
Okay. Once out on the roadside, Vipers came to the aid of her friend, according to the
Oh,
statement.
right. Sorry. Before you go on, this is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. I obviously firmly believe the RCMP were out of line. Whatever they did was harassment and abuse and violence. But that was her and her brother's rendition of what happened. Just to say, like that is as a opinion as it gets, right? Even though it is from
Right.
the victims, but considering that it is from the victims, you still have to realize that this is probably in some way amplified from reality. That's the point I'm making. Nothing to dismiss
Yeah.
her as a victim at all. I'm just saying that was her point of view. Those were quotes from her and her brother.
I hear you. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, Constable Benedict delivered no less than 7 closed fist punches to the head and chest of Ms. Vipers, reads the release. Friesen, who was lying face first on the ground, had her head slammed multiple times into the gravel.
Wow.
Okay. So now, women belligerent, say RCMP. This is a quote, right? They're saying they were belligerent. But RCMP say the driver and passenger were both intoxicated, belligerent, and verbally aggressive with the officer. The officer was in the process of arresting the driver for refusing to provide a breath sample, but she refused to get out of the vehicle, according to the Mounties. The police statement goes on to say the passenger grabbed the driver to prevent her from being arrested. Once Friesen was removed from the truck, Vipers got out and approached police in a fighting stance and threatened the member's life, according to the
Jesus
RCMP
Christ. Come
statement.
on. You fucking unbelievable. Those RCMPs are a bunch of pussies, if that's what they're saying. No, I shouldn't say pussies. My bad.
Well, if you say that this is why you strike someone,
That's why this is after she gets struck, and you're afraid. This is after and you're afraid.
no, I think
that,
they're saying that's why they asked that they were afraid, and that's why they got violent because
so they beat her with their fists. So
And a
they
gravel.
engaged in a fist fight with this woman. That's what's going on.
at this point they are just basically victims of verbal
That is
something,
bullshit.
right?
That's fucking bullshit.
All right.
That's fucking lies. Lies.
Yeah,
Lies.
it is. Yes.
I don't
Okay.
care. I don't care if that's opinion. That does not fucking add up. That sounds like a bunch of
I
fucking
know.
liars. Okay, go on.
Okay. Whew. Friesen is accused of physically assaulting the officer as he tried to arrest both women. Wait, okay, hang on. Friesen is accused of physically assault. Okay. Police say the officer and the passenger were both injured. Both women are due in court later this month. Okay, here's okay, where it gets interesting. Sensationalized allegations. This is the union. RCMP Corporal Troy Savinkoff said if there are allegations of excessive force, there's a process in place where people can file a report and it can be investigated. Kevin Halwa, the Prairie Region Director of the National Police Federation, the labor union that represents RCMP officers, issued a response to the Vipers statement. Here's the response. A family member of one of the accused has chosen to vent sensationalized allegations of misconduct by the arresting member of the RCMP to the media, wrote Halwa. There are numerous complaints processes available to members of the public in the event they feel that a police officer's actions were not appropriate or justified. The third-party complainant who presents themselves as a member of the legal profession would know this, but chose to publicly shame the officer who has no opportunity to explain the situation without compromising ongoing criminal matters before the courts.
You know what? Fucking unions. I don't know how I feel about unions. I like the idea of unions. But what I can say is my honest experience of unions is that they kept really bad employees from getting fired a lot in my personal
Yes.
support work
Yeah,
life.
they protect. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like they protect no
Yeah.
matter what you do. And I worked with some real abusive, like I worked in the old school, like right after institutions closed, right? Like the first group homes there were. I
Yeah.
was working in them.
Yeah.
and for like the mentally disabled, and it was just like some of the worst people were doing some of the worst things you can imagine. The old dogs that were showing the business, 70 years old, still working, covered by the union after 30 years of service of being an abusive fuck, like that happens. But that being said, I this is an article which I like. It says quotes. As long as the
Yes.
quotes are accurate, it
Yeah.
sounds like both people are bullshitting. I don't know what happened. What I know happened is the RCMP wrote a line and they beat a girl when they should have just arrested her if she was being a problem. They should have used their tactful movements to bring her down and cuff her and put her in the car if that's what was going on. If she was drunk or whatever, you don't punch a girl. You don't give. She should not have a black eye. She should not have scrapes on her face from getting pressed to the concrete. That is abuse. That is an overreach of power. No matter how you look at it, I don't care what happened. Those cops should go and get reviewed and investigated at the very least, 100%.
In my experience, with things of a similar nature, it is very hard to defend yourself on something that you didn't do. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah, yeah.
gaslighting. It's like you have to go and say, this happened to me. And then you have to explain why this wasn't your fault.
Right.
Right. And so this is what it is. It is an abuse of power. It is, there is a possibility when you
It's an
think of it
abuse of
this way,
strength too.
there's a possibility that these women were targeted. There's a possibility
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
that they were stopped for no reason. These are all possibilities.
And there's a
maybe,
possibility of a strong history between them and the officers too.
and just because you can't necessarily prove that right now, what other way do you have? All you have is what you have, and this is what they're saying happened. And now they're saying, oh, now they're sensationalizing it.
Right.
They're making it into something because they want, maybe they want attention or something. This is what they're trying to say, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, and if they're putting that much effort into, if the RCMP is putting that much effort into, and a union's coming forward, because obviously they probably were about to get fired and the union stepped in and said, no, you're not firing these officers. Why are they protecting? I mean, why making the stories and sensationalizing everything and saying how bad they were? That just discredits you as an officer, as far as I'm concerned, because you couldn't take care of an unruly woman, an intelligent, educated woman who's probably speaking to you very directly and sharply. You can't handle that when you're a fucking 200-pound whatever man and you're twice her size and twice her strength.
And that could just be an excuse, just an excuse.
I think we're going to hear more about this. I don't think we've heard the last.
And another thing, before we end this conversation about this, can we just put the picture back up of of her face, if you have it? No, not yet. Okay. So, when you think about it, this woman was stopped because of a traffic violation. She apparently, it was a stop sign. Ran a stop sign.
At the hospital. Which is fine. Give her a ticket. Be on your way. There's history here.
And this happened to her before probably she even got out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
How much of a threat do you think she could have been?
No, she
for someone to beat her like that.
No, I don't think. I think that's even. I don't even think we need to explain that anymore. Like, it's obvious. This is.
I
think it comes down to that the history of these two. What's going on with this relationship? I refuse to believe that an officer did this to a woman he never knew, never met, just because she was First Nations. Because if that's the case, the world is going to die any day. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. I will not believe that. I'm too optimistic. I believe my prediction is that she had fucking lots of shit, lots of information on crooked cops, and was in the process of bringing them down. I think that's what happened, and this was a warning. And then she said, "I'm not putting up with the shit." Called her brother, had a little conversation, and realized that they were fucking in the right to go forward and get this into the media.
Yeah, I'd like to.
They're doing it right. They're doing it right. They're using the media to their advantage.
If anyone wants to learn more or read up on this, is just we all should be doing, right?
Yep.
There's a documentary called Thunder Bay, and it's I believe it was on Crave initially, so it might be on Netflix now. But
Mm-hmm.
if anyone has, the time, to want to read, or sorry, to want to learn more, you will see after you watch this that Brendan, yes, it's entirely possible that they were stopped even randomly and treated that way.
It is
And I'm
impossible.
gonna
I just don't want to believe it.
Oh, well, okay. Well, why don't you watch this documentary? And when you do, let's have a conversation again.
Yeah. Well, I think I probably have actually even seen it. And the thing is that I live in an area. Oh yeah, I stated at the start of this podcast I was going to tell my
Okay.
how in First Nations racism affects me directly.
Hmm.
Okay, so I live in an area, northern Vancouver Island, where there's less white people than First Nations people. There's more First Nations people. And I
Okay.
also worked at a detox facility where alcoholics and drug addicts detox from like their first week after the hospital is, or the first 2 weeks after the hospital is with us in the detox
Okay.
facility. So I got to know a lot of Indigenous people, and a lot of First Nations family members know me because I supported their family member. Whether it be a kid or a brother or an uncle or whatever, because there's big families that all kind of live in the same area. And so I have a good insight as to how people are affected by this. And now this is my issue. This is blatant racism from the Canadian government. You don't have to sell for fish commercially as a First Nations. You can sell it commercially and not have to have a commercial license. Okay, that's great. They can sell
Okay.
fish to whoever they want, right? But now listen to this. As a restaurant owner, I am not allowed to buy off anybody who doesn't have a commercial license, yet they are not required to get it. So I can't. They're basically saying don't buy fish off the First Nations, is basically what they're saying. And because of that, and this is why it's fascist, because I pay 3 times as much for fish because of that. That is the most blatantly racist shit
Yeah.
I've ever experienced in my entire life. It's
Wow.
unbelievable. It's
And
unbelievable.
it just happens, and
It
nobody
just
really says
happens.
anything about it.
Well, except us. We're gonna fucking say it.
Yeah.
On that note, this is World News Indie, guys. Catch us on Spotify. Catch us on Instagram. Catch us on Twitter. Ren, that was a pleasure. We'll see you
Yes, it was.
guys
Thank
next
you.
week. Same place, same time.